Aloha, namaste. My name is Janapati Das. Welcome again to the Shri Ishopanishad read-through extravaganza. And I'd like to offer my respects to you. Thank you for taking this time to listen and engage in the reading of scripture and the chanting of Krishna's names. I'm so very excited to be doing these classes, and of course I very much appreciate your feedback, your comments. If you know friends or haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do so. This increases the algorithm so more people can learn about the wonderful scriptures, Vedic scriptures, and hear the words of our spiritual masters. Before I start some kirtan, I'd like to offer my respectful obeisances to my spiritual master, Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupanda, Srila Prabhupada, and Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As usual, we will read through both the purports from the Shri Ishopanishad purport of Bhaktivedanta and the 18 Pearls of Vedic Wisdom by Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupanda Paramhamsa. And so let's get right to our chanting so that we can get into this class. Please join along. Siddhaswarupanda Paramahamsa Namine Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prishtaya Namo Siddhaswarupanda Paramahamsa Namine Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prishtaya Bhaktivedanta Swami Chinami Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Vasudeva Bhaktivinoda Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Bhaktivedanta Haribo. Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. Okay, so we are reading from Mantra 7, but we will continue. We will, as usual, read through from the beginning each of the invocation and mantras that we have read before. Invocation. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as a complete whole. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete by itself, and because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Mantra 1. Everything animate or inanimate that is within this universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. One should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself, which are set aside as his quota, and one must not accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. One may aspire to live for hundreds of years if he continuously goes on doing work in that way, because that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma, and there is no alternative to this way for man. Mantra 3. The killer of the soul, whoever he may be, must enter into the planets known as the worlds of the faithless, full of darkness and ignorance. Mantra 4. The personality of Godhead, although fixed in his abode, is more swift than the mind and can overcome all others running. The powerful demigods cannot approach him. Although in one place he has control over those who supply the air and the rain, he surpasses all in excellence. Mantra 5. The Supreme Lord walks and does not walk. He is far away, but he is very near as well. He is within everything, and again, he is outside of everything. Mantra 6. A person who sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and sees all entities as his parts and parcels, and who sees the Supreme Lord within everything, never hates anything nor any being. Mantra 7, Sanskrit. Yasmin Savani Bhutani Atmaiva Buddh Vijanata Tantra Ko Moha Kas Shoka Ektvam Anupashyata. Yasmin, in the situation. Sarvani, all. Bhutani, living entities. Atma, spiritual spark. Eva, only. Abhut, becomes a fact. Vijanata, one who knows. Tatra, therein. Ka, what. Moha, illusion. Shoka, anxiety. Ekatvam, of the same quality. Anupashyata, one who sees through authority, or one who sees constantly like that. Translation. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks, in quality one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What is there as illusion or anxiety for him? What an amazing mantra. So we had read last time the purports, the Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada and Srila Prabhupada, Jagad had talked about the three divisions of devotees, the Kanista Adhikari, or the lowest devotee of God realization, of God understanding as a devotee, and the qualities of that, and Majjhima Adhikarya, which is the middle devotee, and Uttama Adhikarya, the pure devotee. And the pure devotee, this is what Bhaktivedanta and Srila Prabhupada have said, that one should strive in their life, in their spiritual life, to become a Uttama Adhikari, not for being in some kind of status or some kind of position, but of consciousness, a pure consciousness. And this is an example of an Uttama Adhikari, one who sees all living entities as spiritual sparks. So we referred to this before, that, the devotee, I'm going to go to the Bhagavad Gita quote that Jagad Guru referenced in here and read that again, because that was very basically seeing that the material covering of the living entity does not designate who they really are. A humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater outcast. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, verse 18. So this pure devotee, this Uttama Adhikari, sees that all the living entities are actually children of God. And in knowing that, that changes everything. Even spiritual life is something that is very, through a process, coming to this realization after realization. And the first realization, of course, that was taught in the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna was that you're not the body. You're not the body, you're not the mind, and you are actually a spiritual jivatma. You are a spiritual entity within the body. The things that happen around your body, the body that you happen to be in now, the bodies that you're in different lives, do not designate who you really are. So there is a striving, and this really brings about a true knowledge about the reality of things, about what's important, what's not important. We have so much striving based on race and skin color, sex, identity, sexual identity, all these external things that don't designate who we really are. They're not who we are. So there's really, as Srila Prabhupada would say, if whether you have, it's like having a shirt, having different colored shirts, and people criticizing each other by the color of their shirt, or if the shirt gets dirty and eventually falls apart as the body does, you just change your shirt, and this is what happens in the material world. So there is no illusion, there is no anxiety. So the living entity, the spiritual master, the Uttama Adhikari, with this understanding, this knowledge, is not an illusion at all. He's not confused. He's not frustrated by the material happenings of situations. There's no anxiety. There's great anxiety and there's great illusion because people identify themselves with their body. And because they identify themselves with particular bodies, there is all these things that come about negatively because of it. Except for the two more advanced devotees described above, no one can correctly see the spiritual position of a living entity. The living entities are qualitatively one with the Supreme Lord, as the sparks of the fire are qualitatively one with the nature of the fire, but the sparks are not fire as far as quantity is concerned. So that's a very clear example. The spark of a fire may be part and parcel of that fire. It may have the same element of heat and light, but it is not the fire. The quantity of heat and light present in the fire is not equal to the quantity and heat and light in the sparks. The Mahabhagavat, the great devotee, sees oneness in the sense that everything is the energy of the Supreme Lord. So that is a clear differentiation between Mayavadi or monists who see the merging, like they refer to the drops of water into the ocean become the ocean. But they don't become the ocean because the molecules are still separate. They're still separate molecules. That amount of molecules is separate, even though it has the same quality. If anything, a drop of water into the ocean would be a good example of what Mahabhagavat sees, that the oneness in the sense that everything is an energy of the Lord. But there is still individuality in the molecule, parcel, what's the word I'm thinking of? Parcel, like the parcel of that water droplet that goes into the ocean has a certain amount of water molecules in a volume, right? And they go into the ocean. They may appear to be merging. They may appear to be the same. They're all molecules and they're all water, right? They're all water molecules. But they're all different. They're the same, but they're different. This is what Lord Chaitanya termed as a Chinta Bheda Bheda Tattva, simultaneously one but different. Same quality, but not the same quantity. Without heat and light, there is no meaning of fire, and yet heat and light, from an analytical point of view, are different from fire. But in synthesis, heat, light, and fire are all the same one thing. The Sanskrit words are found here. Ekatvam anupashyata means that to see the unity of the living entities from the viewpoint of the revealed scriptures. That's really wonderful. Right, so being a knower, by seeing these things through the revealed scriptures, and the revealed scriptures as taught by the Uttama Adhikari that we're referencing here, the pure devotee who has been handed down from his spiritual master the absolute truth. Every individual spark of the supreme whole has almost 80% of the known qualities of the whole, but they are not as good as the Supreme Lord. These qualities are present in minute quantity, as the living entity is but a minute part and parcel of the Supreme Whole. This is like the drop of water in the ocean. The quantity of salt present in the drop is never comparable to the quantity of salt present in the complete ocean. But the quality of the salt present in a drop of equality is equal to, in quality, in chemical composition, with that present in the ocean. So Bhaktivedanta takes it a step deeper there, right? We're talking about the chemical compositions being the same. I did kind of mention that. If the individual living being were equal in both in quality and quantity, then there would be no question of the living entities being submerged by the influence of material energy. It has already been discussed in previous mantras that no living being, even the powerful demigods, can surpass the Supreme Being in any respect. Therefore, ekatvaram does not mean that the living being is equal in all respects with the Supreme Lord. It means, in a broader sense, there is one interest. Just as in a family, the interest of all the members is one. In a nation, although different individual citizens are there, the national interest is one. Therefore, the living entities being parts and parcels of the same Supreme Family, the interest of the Supreme Being and that of the part and parcels is not different. We have the same, it's love. We're like in your family, you love your family. If you're in love with your family, then anything outside of that, trying to be contrary to that, is going to be contrary to that. So similarly, what's in our best interest as being part and parcel of the Supreme, the same energy, the same quality, in an eternal relationship, is not going to be in the best interest to be outside of that relationship. Even though we will still be in Krishna's energy, we will be in the material energy, trying to have our back to Krishna the whole time, turning to the darkness and not realizing the light is behind us, and wanting to see but having our back turned. Okay, so that's not in our best interest. It makes complete sense. In a nation, although different citizens are there, the national interest is one. Therefore, the living entities being parts and parcels of the same Supreme Family, the interest of the Supreme Being and that of the parts and parcels is not different. Every living being is the son of the Supreme Being. As it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, all living creatures, including birds, reptiles, ants, aquatics, trees, and so on, all over the universe, all are emanations from the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, and therefore all of them belong to the same family of the Supreme Being. There is no clash of interest in spiritual life. The spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment. And another important point is understanding that we're all part and parcel of Krishna, that our eternal relationship, all of us, all living entities and all living entities in human forms and animal forms maybe have different designations and belief systems and whatnot because of conditioning in the material world, but those are not true knowledge. That's not who we really are. And understanding, coming to the point of understanding this, the conclusion is like of this mantra, There will be no illusion. There will be no anxiety. There will be happiness and love and unity. The spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment. By nature, by constitution, yeah, so the spiritual entities are meant for enjoyment to the Supreme Lord, right? Of the Supreme Lord. We are not the masters of we are not there for enjoying the material world. That's the problem. We are not the Supreme Lord. We are not, the things around us and other living entities are not meant for our own enjoyment. They're meant for Krishna's enjoyment. By nature, by constitution, every living being, both the Supreme Lord and the different part and parcel, is meant for enjoyment eternally. The living beings who are encaged in the material tabernacle are also seeking enjoyment always, but they are seeking their enjoyment on a platform which is not meant for them. So, similarly to the first mantra, not knowing our quota, trying to strive and being thieves of this world, thieves of God's property, this creates major problems for us. It's not in our best interest, as I said. It's not in our best interest to be stealing things that don't belong to us, to try to be the masters and enjoyers of that which is not to be enjoyed by us. Aside from this material world, there is the spiritual platform where the Supreme Being is enjoying with his innumerable associates without any trace of material qualities. That platform is called Nirguna. On the Nirguna platform, there is no clash of enjoyment. Here in the material world, there is always a clash between different individual beings, because here the center of enjoyment is missed. Read that again. Here in the material world, there is always a clash between different individual beings, because here the center of enjoyment is missed. We are all acting as the major controller and owner of enjoyment, and we are all competing for that. So therefore, the center is not being focused in the right place. If we are focusing all together on Krishna and seeking out his enjoyment, it's a great party. You go to these retreats and go to kirtans and people are focused on Krishna. It's the first thing I ever noticed about when I came into chanting, because I had been in music and I would go to clubs and it would be a weird scene always. People were drunk and then people were checking out people, and it was just like this enjoyer attitude of everyone trying to enjoy, and I was trying to enjoy being a rock star, right? So when I came to kirtan, I noticed, whoa, everybody is focused on Krishna for his enjoyment. We're chanting Krishna's names, and in turn, they were receiving great pleasure and happiness from this. This is what the spiritual world is about. This is spiritual life. Focusing on God, and by nature, you will be happy and enjoy yourself. The center of enjoyment is the Supreme Lord, who is the center of the sublime and spiritual rasa dance. So I think maybe just recently it was the anniversary of the rasa dance. I think I have to check my Vaishnava calendar. But Krishna is the center, and all the gopis. The gopis all are having this individual, think they are having this individual relationship with Krishna because they can only see Krishna. They don't see the gopis, they see Krishna. And they see them, they're dancing with Krishna. Krishna's dancing with me, And Krishna is the center of this whole rasa dance. Just like, clouds around a moon, right? So beautiful. We are all meant, I just want to read that rasa dance from Krishna book. I think maybe since it's about the time you can go back and listen to my video on the rasa dance. We are all meant for joining him, for enjoying life with one transcendental interest and without any clash. How nice is that? With a world full of chaos, quarrel, and confusion, people just fighting in the streets and everyone arguing online and because everybody's trying to get their one up on everybody else. We just put Krishna in the center, and focus on Krishna. And there's no clash. There's no clash. There's no competition. We're all doing the same thing. That is the highest platform of spiritual interest, and as soon as the perfect form of oneness has realized there can be no question of illusion or lamentation. You know, what is there to be lamenting about? What kind of illusion is there? Maya or illusion means a godless civilization, the result of which is lamentation. So there is the sort of hedonistic philosophy that the more we engage in a sense-filled and for ourselves, an individualistic gratification, the more we do that, the happier we'll be. But actually the opposite means true. The more and more we do that, the more of a godless civilization we have. The more of a godless civilization you have, the more chaos, quarrel, and confusion there is. The more lamentation, the more suicide, the more drug use, the more unhappiness. The godless civilization sponsored by the modern politicians is always full of anxieties, and that is the law of nature. So, you know, politicians, they're playing off what the people want, and so, you know, they try to make themselves look really good. They're all just a bunch of vipers. No one can surpass this law, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Only those who surrender at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord can overcome the stringent laws of nature. If, therefore, we wish to get rid of all sorts of illusion and anxiety and create unity of all diverse interests, we must bring God into all our activities. Just anybody, you know, even just the, you know, what we're seeing is a pushing out of religion. You're pushing religion out of, because of the way people being imperfect, you know, people are sinful. Even religious, a lot of times religious people are not. We've talked about this, people being in different spiritual levels of, and so somebody experiences that, well, that person's not very godly. He was actually, you know, a child molester, and so therefore God is not real. God doesn't exist. God doesn't love me. You know, this is why people think, I don't need to follow religion. I don't need to follow God. I'll follow my own way. That's going the other way. The results of our activities must be used to serve the interest of the Lord and not for any other purpose, because only by serving the interest of the Lord can we feel the Atma Bhuta interest mentioned here in the Shri Ishopanishad. Was that in this verse? Bhutani Atma, you know, the living entities, right? This and the Brahma Bhuta interest mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita. So Brahma Bhuta is the beginning, the ending of complete sense gratification of nirvana. We snuffing out the purpose of enjoying our senses for our own, and Brahma Bhuta stage begins. That's the spiritual life, pure spiritual devotion. Are one and the same thing. The supreme Atma, or soul, is the Lord himself, and the minute Atma is the living entity. The supreme Atman, or Paramatman, alone maintains all the individual minute beings, because the Supreme Lord wants to derive pleasure out of their affection. Krishna just wants love. He's a love hoarder. He loves love. We all love love. We know how love really affects us. We know it, and we have all these sayings about love and attempts for love, and we really just want to be loved. Everybody just wants to be loved, because we are part and parcel of Krishna. Therefore we wish to be loved, and the greatest love is the Supreme Lord, Krishna. Krishna is the greatest love. He is the source of all love. That's why Lord Jesus Christ said in his commandments, you should love the Lord God with your whole heart and your whole mind, your whole being, and like unto it, but not the same. Secondly, you should love your neighbor as yourself, because if you're connected in the way that you're connected, you are exactly here. You're seeing living entities as spiritual sparks, as parts and parcels of Krishna, the ultimate lover. You will see that all living entities are these small, are wanting to be loved. And you can have compassion, true compassion for people. You can teach people about this, about how to go back home to the ultimate source of love. God is love. God is love. It's true. Aloha keakua. God is love. The Supreme Atman, or soul, or Lord himself. Okay, so I read that. It's because he derives pleasure out of their affection. The Father extends himself by his children and maintains them in order to derive pleasure. If the children of the Father are obedient to his will, family affairs will run smoothly with one interest and a pleasing atmosphere. Exactly the same thing is transcendently arranged in the Brahman, or the absolute family of the Param Brahman, the Supreme Spirit. The Param Brahman is as much a person as the individual entities are. None of them are impersonal. Such transcendental personalities are full of transcendental bliss, knowledge, and life eternal. That is the real position of spiritual existence. And as soon as one is fully cognizant of this transcendental position, he at once surrenders unto the lotus feet of the Supreme Being, Shri Krishna. But such Mahatmas, great souls, are rarely seen, because such transcendental realization is achieved only after many, many births. After once attained, however, there is no more illusion or distress, no more of the misery of material existence, and there is no birth and death as we experience in the present status of our life. That is the information we get from this mantra of Shri Ishopanishad. So, reading from Jagad Guru Siddhaswarupanda. Texts. Text 7, Mantra 7. One who always sees all living entities as spiritual sparks and qualities, one with the Lord, becomes a true knower of things. What then can be illusion or anxiety for him? Purport by his divine grace, Jagad Guru. Who am I? What is my essence? So my dear spiritual master has written a wonderful book called Who Am I? Who Are You? Who Are You? And it answers a lot of these questions. Maybe I'll have a class on that coming up. Who am I? What is my essence? This age-old question is answered in Mantra 7. Your essence is not material, it is spiritual. The Bhagavad Gita explains that two distinct types of energy exist, material and spiritual. Both the Supreme Lord and all living beings are spirit in essence, not material. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord describes the spiritual quality or essence of the individual living beings as follows. Know that which pervades the entire body is indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable self. Only the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is subject to destruction. Therefore fight, O descendant of Bharat, chapter 2, verse 17 and 18 of the Bhagavad Gita. For the living entity there is never birth nor death, nor having once been does he ever cease to be. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, undying, and primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. Chapter 2, verse 20 of the Bhagavad Gita. So we've read that in our Bhagavad Gita class, and that is the understanding, the very basic of meditation, is understanding what is our essence. The self can never be cut into pieces by any weapon, nor can he be burned by fire, nor moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. This individual soul is unbreakable and insoluble, and can be neither burned nor dried. Chapter 2, verse 24 and 25. To realize one's eternal spiritual nature is the first step in self-realization. Such a realized soul meditates Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman, I am spirit, I am eternal, I am not matter, I am not this body. So Aham Brahmasmi, this is, reflecting on this mantra of understanding that we are not our body nor mind is crucial. When I first heard that, it was mind-blowing for me. I think about it as a key component of understanding spiritual realization, but it's a radical thing, because most people don't operate on that level. They don't even think that. They think they are the body. They think they are the body. They think they're their sex and their skin color and their so-called sexual identities, and they think they're a boy, they're a girl, or somewhere in between. They think so many things, and as we progress through Kali Yuga, it just gets crazier and crazier. That this is a great illusion, and one has to understand that none of this stuff none of the body designations, none of what goes on in your mind, this is not who you really are. All transcendentalists must first realize this point. A person who doesn't know that his essence is not matter but spirit, who falsely identifies with his material body and mind, cannot be accepted as an enlightened person. So there's quite a few so-called, self-help gurus and TikTok people and people all over the place who think they're very enlightened, but they act on a level, are very intelligent, but they're not. They're not intelligent at all. They're not enlightened at all. They're completely illusioned and they're foolish, as Bhagavad Gita would state, mudra. One who knows that he is spirit soul, eternal, not temporary, is relieved from anxiety. This is a major anxiety reliever, to know, okay, the things that are going on with my body is 56 years old. That's still not like really old, but you can see the progression as you get older and things get harder, more difficult to try to maintain the health of your body. More pains come in, and there's this great fear of missing out and just not, anxiety, overall anxiety, because of the identity of the body. Even people on their deathbed oftentimes, and they think they're their body, they think they're going to cease existing. There's a lot of anxiety in death. Such a person is no longer in the illusion that he is in the body. Being freed from this illusion, he is free from fears of death. Practically everyone in the world consciously or unconsciously fears death. Yes. So knowing you're not your body and that you are chanting Krishna's names and you're taking shelter in Krishna, the Krishna will be there for you. Krishna will carry you through. But even if you weren't, if you knew you were not your body, you would know, okay, I'm not going to cease existing. I will take on another body in the next life, and whatever I might be, that'll be, but I'm not ceasing to exist. They live out their whole life struggling to set up the permanent living situation with permanent, meaningful relationships that in their hearts, they know that they cannot stay here forever. Thus, there is always anxiety. So underlying anxiety, fear and anxiety. That's why Jesus said, don't build the house on sand at low tide, because eventually that tide will come in and wash it away. So we spend our life trying to make things secure. Don't change. And when change comes, it's like, whoa, somebody leaves us, somebody dies, we lose our job. There's all these little shifts in things as we go along. We get in a major accident, we become paralyzed. The things that we were doing before we can't do. It's just constant. And then we know that we're eventually heading towards a point where we don't know really when it's going to be, of when we're going to be kicked out of this body. It's not a permanent living situation. Many people practice Tai Chi, Qigong, and so on, all of which derive from yoga, which with the aim of keeping their bodies fit for a long time. There is certainly nothing wrong with keeping one's body fit. Indeed, it is one of the aims of yoga, but unfortunately many such people are trying to run away from the inevitable death of the body. Some mystic yogis strive to keep their bodies alive forever, but that is not possible. Even if one were the greatest yogi and could keep his body alive for thousands of years, that still is not forever. The struggle for physical immortality is seen as a needless struggle by those truly enlightened yogis who know that their body is but an outer garment that they are using temporarily. Actually, a person who knows that he is not the body is not at all anxious to hold on to it. He knows that his existence does not depend on the existence of the body, that he will continue to exist even after the death of the body, and that the temporary body is the cause of all sorts of suffering. The great Chinese yogi Lao Tzu wrote, the reason I have great trouble is that I have a body. When I no longer have a body, what trouble have I? Knowing that the material world is full of suffering, the yogi keeps his body only in order to use it in a way that benefits others. Unlike those in illusion, he doesn't see the world as his real home. He sees it as a place in which to live only for as long as the Supreme Lord wants him to, only for as long as he can render loving service. Since he doesn't see the world as a source of security or happiness, he doesn't see his body as essential to his security or happiness. In terms of quantity, so this is a great, this is the same thing as like when I was talking about Arjuna or Yudhisthira, great Kshatriya kings who were yogis in truth. They had the greatest wealth. They had the most money and power as a king. And they saw it as just, okay, this is what I'm using for now in the service of God. And when it comes to the end, it's just dirt. I just cast it off, go to the forest in the loincloth, meditate and leave my body. So one can leave like a yogi if one has these understandings. One has an understanding of being a spiritual in essence, and that coming the time of death and your body's falling apart, you can do great service to your spiritual master and to Krishna by being a yogi and leaving your body without attachment to it, without yelling and screaming and crying and fear and anxiety. In terms of quantity, the individual spirit soul is not equal to the Supreme Soul. Just as a spark from a fire cannot be considered equal to the fire, or the sun ray cannot be considered equal to the sun globe, despite the qualitative oneness. The individual spirit soul, the spark of the Supreme Spirit Soul, cannot be considered equal in all respects to the Supreme Lord. So we touched on this in Bhaktivedanta before too. Unfortunately, this truth has not been realized by countless yogis and transcendentalists. Such people try to equate the minute spark of God with God himself, and thus go off the path. They correctly appreciate that a person's real essence is spirit, not matter. They know that a person is not the body, but then they fall into the trap of believing that the individual spirit soul is the Supreme Spirit Soul himself. So many monists, so-called gurus and bogi yogis, there's been countless numbers of them, Paramahamsa Yogananda, Satyasai Baba, Osho, just so many of these guys. Neem Curly Baba. The chief historical proponent of such I am Godism philosophy was Sripad Shankaracharya, which we've mentioned before is actually Lord Shiva. Shankaracharya lived and preached throughout India in the 8th century. The preaching of Shankaracharya and his followers was so strong that, practically speaking, it drove Buddhism out of India. Today, throughout India and the world, Shankaracharya's teachings, or slight variations of them, are still having a tremendous influence on people. In Calcutta, India, for example, we can see the ridiculous sight of a starving, sore-infested man meditating on the side of the road, I am God, I am God. In Europe, in America and Europe, you'll find so many so-called yogis and gurus who are directly or indirectly in Shankaracharya's line of teachers. One man, Swami Muktananda, attracted thousands of disciples in America with his I am God teachings. Muktananda states, honor yourself, love yourself, worship yourself. The God who is within you is you. Rajneesh, who is also commonly known as Osho at the end of his life, infamous for his advocacy of free sex among his thousands of Western disciples, writes, the word brahmacharya means that you have come to attain, you have come to know that you are the Brahman, the ultimate, the divine, that you are God himself. Okay. Satyasai Baba, India's most famous contemporary mystic and quote-unquote holy man, says, you have not heard me fully. I say I am God. I say also that you are God. The only difference is that I know that you and I are God and you do not know it. The idea that I am goddess, this is Srila Prabhupada again, is that each of us is actually the Supreme Spirit, but that somehow we forgot our true identity as God and came under the spell of ignorance. So supposedly you are supposedly God, the Supreme Being, but you are now caught under the laws of material nature. You are supposedly the Supreme Spirit, but you are now bound on the wheel of birth and death. So this is the ironic contradiction of being the Supreme Lord, but somehow caught under the inferior material energy that emanates from you. So you can't get yourself out of the things that are inferior, even though you're a superior creator of all these things. Swami Muktananda notes the highest consciousness becomes bound by limitations. Its primal powers and omniscience, omnipotence, and perfection, everlasting, and all-pervasiveness are experienced in the reduced condition. Although omniscient, he knows only a few things. Although omnipotent, he feels helpless and acts effectively only in a small sphere. The master of perfect bliss, he is ensnared in pleasure and pain, attachment and aversion. The eternal being cries aloud from fear of death, regarding himself as mortal. Pervading all space and form, he grieves because he is tied to a particular place and a particular form. This is the condition of Shakti poverty. It is the experience of all creatures caught in the transmigratory cycle. So, according to the Mayavadi philosophers, God becomes bound up on the wheel of birth and death, and this is all due to his having forgotten that he is God. According to this theory, God needs to meditate and struggle against material nature to remember who he is. Being caught in ignorance and misery, God supposedly must then struggle to find himself through meditation, quote unquote. Muktananda says, God forgets his own true nature and looks for God. God worships God. God meditates on God. God is trying to find God. Such I am goddess fail to ask, how can God forget who he is? How can God be overcome by ignorance and illusion? How can God, who is the supreme controller, lose control? Because that would ultimately state that God is not actually the supreme controller. He is actually controlled by this illusion and ignorance that is somehow greater. Maya is somehow greater. This is why it's called Mayavadi by Vaishnavas. The fact is, God never forgets who he is. God never comes under the influence of inferior material energy. To say that God forgets who he is and that he must then meditate to remember is blasphemy. God, by definition, means he who is the supreme controller, who is all-wise, all-powerful, the cause of all causes. God does not need to meditate to remember his identity. God knows who he is. He always has and he always will. O Arjuna, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I know everything that has happened in the past, all that is happening in the present, and all things that are yet to come. I also know all living entities, but me no one knows. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 26. So there is no question of amnesia for the Supreme Lord. God never forgets his identity, nor anything else. He is not only unaffected by remembrance and forgetfulness, but he is actually their source. So God is the source of it. It's stated here. God is the source. Here. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, verse 15. So for those people who want to be in the material world as a supreme Lord, or, per se, they want to be the, why am I forgetting the guy? Anyway, the Christian book story, they starts with a P, can't think of his name. Anyways, he tried to be Pandrika. It's like old age. Okay, my brain. Anyway, so in the story where the person thought he was Krishna, he was Vasudeva, and he dressed up like Krishna, and so these are the people they want to do. They want to act like that. So Krishna gives them all the information that they can to forget them and to deny his existence. If you want to remember Krishna, Krishna will give that to you too. Krishna will gladly give that to you. He's doing it indirectly already. God never becomes covered by Maya or illusion. Ignorance can't cover God. It is one Pandraka, that was interesting. I knew it would come to me. It is one of his energies, and it acts under his direction. All states of being, be they of goodness, passion, or ignorance, are manifested by my energy. I am in one sense everything, but I am independent. I am not under the modes of material nature. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, verse 12. The Srimad Bhagavatam confirms that my Devi, the personification of illusion, is afraid to show her face before the Lord. The illusory energy of the Lord cannot take precedence, being ashamed of her position, but those who are bewildered by her always talk nonsense, being absorbed in the thoughts of it is I and it is mine. Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, 5th chapter, 13th verse. Yeah. I Me Mine, the Beatles song, right? I think they were following Rajneesh, not Rajneesh. What was the other guy? The guy from the 60s, Maharishi, yeah. And he was a birthless too. I, me, mine. Everything is all about it's me and mine. I'm my dog, my person, my job, my wife. I am this, I am that. The supreme truth is light, illusion, and darkness. In the same way that darkness flees from the sun, ignorance flees from the Lord. Where there is Godhead, light, there can be no illusion. Just as there is no question of darkness in the sun, similarly there is no question of illusion or forgetfulness for God. It would be troublesome if God were subject to illusion. We living entities are spirit in essence, but because we are not all powerful, we sometimes fall under Maya, ignorance. For protection, we must take shelter in the Supreme Soul, surrender to the Supreme Soul. Surrender means loving. Naturally, one who loves the Supreme Person dovetails her will with his. This is called devotional service or bhakti. When you love someone, you just want to be around them. You want to do things for them. It's not like something is forced to do that. When you love somebody, you feel compelled by your love to do things for that person. It is the soul's natural function to be engaged in the loving service of the Supreme Soul. The spirit soul who tries to enjoy separately from God, the soul who wants to be God, ends up chained to the wheel of birth and death by the karmic reaction to her self-centered activities. That's why it's not in our best interest to try to be materialists or be hedonists. We're just ending up causing ourselves more suffering to ourselves, suffering to everyone around to us, suffering to our planet, everything. But God is not chained to the wheel of birth and death because he is the supreme controller. The I am God philosophers who declare otherwise are simply atheists, materialists in disguise. So they may put on the show of Shiva and all these, talking about God and Jesus and all these things, but they're really atheists because they just think that it's all one. There is no God. In fact, that is who they are. They are God. They see themselves as God, and since they are limited, they say God is limited. They can't stand the idea of someone being greater than them. And because they are envious of God, they don't want to serve him. Thus, they remain unqualified to enter the spiritual world. Although the individual spirit soul or Atma is of the same quality as the Supreme Lord, Spirit in essence, this does not mean that the spirit soul is of the same quantity. The individual spirit soul is not all powerful or all wise. The spirit soul is controlled by so many natural and social forces that it is absurd to claim that such a dominated being is all powerful. Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami writes, if the individual living being were to be equal to the Supreme Lord both qualitatively and quantitatively, there would be no question of his being under the influence of material energy. In the 15th century, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu condemned the I am Godism of Shankaracharya, saying, the impersonalist I am God philosophy is so degraded that it has taken the insignificant living entities to be the Lord, the supreme truth, thus covering the glory and supremacy of the absolute truth with monism. Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Lita, second book, I guess, canto, 7th chapter, 120th verse. To say that God gets covered by ignorance is to say that ignorance, illusion, is superior to God. to say that God comes under the laws of material nature and suffers from birth and death. Being forced to take on bodies of ants, hogs, and dogs is to say that God is powerless and that he loses control of his own creation. And needless to say that atheists will make a lot of arguments too that will limit the power of in their argument. Well, can God do this? And can God create a boulder that, for this one, create a boulder that he can't lift? It's like, stupid. The individual spirit soul can come under the laws of material nature because he is not God. The individual spirit soul is not the supreme soul. The minute spark of God can come under the spell of illusion, but the Supreme Lord cannot. To claim that the individual soul is equal not only in essence but in position to the Supreme Lord is ludicrous. Sometimes a person who practices mystic yoga or qigong will take to the I am God philosophy. The combination of these two, namely increased psychic or mystic powers and the belief that the individual spirit soul is actually God, is disastrous. Such people use their powers to mislead less intelligent people to worship them as God. Mystic or psychic powers, whether inborn or developed through yoga, qigong, or whatever, are not spiritual. They are subtle material powers, that's all. A person can have great mystic powers and be able to impress people, but if he is not a loving servant of the Supreme Lord, if he claims that he is God or that we're all God, then he is not enlightened. He is not to be followed and he is not to be trusted. An actual spiritually realized person is not interested in power, psychic or otherwise. He is interested in rendering loving service to the Lord. He is interested in relieving people from their suffering conditions. So not only rendering loving service to God, but to helping, truly helping, being the friend of all living entities by helping educate them about who they really are and what their purpose as servants of God really is, and that we can actually have a peaceful and loving society, which we do not have right now. And that the reason is everything that's laid out in this mantra. So wonderful mantra. This is just really wonderful. Thank you so much for tuning in. Namaste.